Hey everybody, it's Pete Toll, aka PTsports84. Back to do another roster update, as this is the first one that's dropped since last week. Um, to be honest, today is Wednesday, September the 21st, 2022, and the circumstances kind of with the roster updates. Um, for the next few days, I think at least, might be a little bit limited just because of, for anybody that's unaware, there was a security breach with 2K support and maybe some internal stuff there. Not just speculating. I don't know any inside info, anything like that. Just my just putting two and two together because there wasn't an update Monday or Tuesday. The breach comes, as far as a security breach, and then from there, we get a small, very, very minor roster update today for the current rosters. Nothing updated that I can tell right now as far as the classic all-time or my NBA eras or the draft classes. Anything with the coaching staffs, anything with the accessories or shoes, anything like that. Unfortunately, with all of that stuff, there's so many different departments involved in all of that feedback that it is tough, like just in a general, like good working format. And then when you get into the security breach stuff, as me working previously for numerous companies and stuff like that, when there's a security breach, there's tons of meetings. There's tons of BS protocol stuff you've got to go through. There's tons of just time wasted, more or less, in various departments because everything stops. Because now you got to find a way of, like, how do we keep this from happening in the future, on top of how do we move forward in the way that we're moving, but keep everything secure, and things like that. And then you're working with different departments. Some people may work from home. Some people may work from the office. Like, all that stuff has to be tidied up again. Like, protocols have to be gone over. Like, maybe some things change. Like, all of that stuff is one side of it. And then you don't know what's compromised on the other side of it. So I don't know that we're going to see very much retro updates this week, at least. Maybe even going into next week. Just know that the feedback is in. The feedback's in the proper hands, and so we'll hopefully see it at some point. But I'll be honest, the feedback list is large, and so it's a lot to go through, like a lot. And for me to say a lot, it's a lot. Like, everything from tons of players needed to be added to draft classes to tons of draft classes kind of being worked through, as far as maybe some faces might be off, some player models should be different, like as far as like a rookie version of a player, if there is a second player available, as well as like a player has like goggles or different hair, things like that. Those have to be assigned as well, like in those draft classes. For the MYNBA eras, there's stuff like George Johnson for the Hawks is the same render as the Pacers version. Just different stuff like Magic Johnson, different player ID because he needs the younger version. Tons of different things. Everything down to the minor stuff like, the Mavericks and the Spurs, away sock color being white. Like, just stuff like that, for example. All of those things. I mean, there's tons. Those are just a couple of examples. When you get into the classic teams, like Rod Higgins shouldn't be on the Bulls for the 85-86 team. Some ages are wrong. Some draft class info is wrong. Some, IDs and stuff. I mean, the chart party, the changes take a while, to be honest. Because you're not just working in a spreadsheet and making edits in some cases, Some cases you need the art department to change some things, or an engineer to come in and change. Hey, these renders aren't showing properly, even though we have it on hairstyle 1. We're still seeing Moses Malone with goggles, even though he's got hairstyle 1. Because you can hit the right D-pad and then hit it back to the left, and he has, hairstyle 1, and it's without goggles. But by default, he has the goggles on that 76ers team in his draft class, and he didn't wear the goggles then. So, it's just those kinds of things. And so there's a lot of feedback to go there. Then there's another side of it with, you get into the coaching staffs, and there's missing coaches that could technically be added to the MYNBA ERA teams. Some face updates for those different coaches, even for the current teams. There's a couple players that, with the current NBA, there's like Kendall Brown's missing, but he has a cyber face in the hidden files that can be added, but then you got to go and create Kendall Brown and get that in there. Yes, I already have that YGB. I've already had that from last year. That was a ongoing bug. He asked about Jalen Smith and Wendell Carter. Anybody that has goggles, basically, whenever you do any kind of edits to them, even if you do a minor, just a shoe edit, an armband edit, anything, those goggles disappear and you can't get it back. I had feedback last year because Jalen Smith was exactly like that last year. And then regarding the vitals info, it's just a spreadsheet. Yes, that's true to a sense, but they're not going to release it until it's, certified through multiple departments. And it might be a time consumption thing. It might be, logistically waiting on another department to finish something. There's tons of stuff that we don't know on the outside. I just know from working different companies in the inside, you may say, oh, I've got all my stuff ready to go and this is good. And then you're like, no, we got to wait on PR to write up, something on it. Or we got to wait on, for 2K's purpose, X department to finalize something on their side before we can, officially release. And so there's a lot of steps to jump through than just saying, hey, I updated the spreadsheet, let's turn it in. Like that may work for the class or for the current teams to a certain extent, like adding a player that's already in the sheet, just moving them like the team ID, like that's easy. Like that should be a easy, boom, 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 you're done. But when you're adding a player from scratch, you've got to redo that sheet, sync it to the internal system, and then release from there. Takes a couple extra steps. So, how did they get so many vitals wrong? I'll be honest. In a spreadsheet, it's tough. Like, one, I can't read. It says looks like MYNBA ERA is in play now. I'm gonna guess you're saying has been patched. Maybe. I'm not sure. I can't read it because it cuts off. And I promise everybody that's watching, anybody that's going to tune in, my new monitor and all that stuff is going to get here. Best Buy delayed it, of course, 6 days. So it's supposed to get here Thursday afternoon. So if there's an update on Friday, I'll have the ability to actually read all the comments at once rather than everything cutting it off. Yeah, I figured it's been patched out. That was a debug menu for the developers that wasn't supposed to go in, so that's not shocking at all that's taken out, because that can cause all kinds of things to go wrong, to be honest. It looks cool and it's great, but it wasn't intended for this year. Actually, let's test that real quick. No, I see. I mean, I got the debug option here. Let's go into start a game. Well, it looks like the debug's option's working. No, it's still working.
Well, thanks very much.
And the message
So we're good. Oh, you're on Xbox. Okay, yeah, Xbox might totally be different. Are you on current gen or next gen? Just curious. Because I know a lot of stuff is weird for current gen. And I promise we're going to get into the actual roster update. I just rambled on about the other stuff. Series X. Okay, yeah, that's weird. I also saw some other stuff with the some stuff on Xbox that doesn't happen on PS5 and stuff like that. So it's random how that happens. Um, but yeah, with the retro stuff, it's my favorite part of the updates. Honestly, I just don't think that we're gonna see very much this week going into next week. Just my assumption. It's already Wednesday. There is a ton of feedback, like I said, a lot. It's not just like, oh, here's 5 things that you need to fix. There's probably, if I counted all the changes, probably 200 changes altogether. Like, and people could say, oh, how'd that happen? This is a video game and da da da. Well, when you're dealing with different departments and you're dealing with different people working on different aspects of the game, different spreadsheets, different info, not everybody's as detail oriented, to be honest. And that's just an easy answer to give. Like, if you're rushed for time and it's time constraint, hey, Dopey Music, what's up? You know, it's hard. Yeah, I saw the change player option is gone in player edit. I put in a ticket to 2K support. Please, everybody, do the same. Go to if it's even up. I'm not sure if it was down yesterday because they had the security breach. I don't even know if they have it available. It looks like it might still be down. So that might not be an option. I'm not sure. The regular site's looks like it's not working. But if it does come up, put in a support ticket, because without those support tickets, the devs or the engineers aren't going to see it as high of a priority. And if that is a actual non-intended bug, like I think it is, then they'll be able to patch that back in. And what you could do is go to 2K support, put your ticket in, submit a request. You go to it's feedback, and then basically I'd like to report a bug. You put your system in and all that stuff that you have. Then you write out a detailed description of the menu being, basically taking out what it says now, which is team, and that's it. It's the only text left. And then from there, basically you want to take a screenshot or a video, something that you can prove that shows that it was there prior and now it's gone. I capture stuff all the time just internally to have. So I was able to show that, hey, this isn't available. This is what it looked like pre-patch and then post-patch. So as far as the shoe licensing goes, I have no clue how that works. I know Brett Hawkins was the dev that was working over shoes maybe like a year or two ago. I don't know if that's still the case. He was updating a ton of stuff previous, but then he kind of was getting hit with all kind of nasty messages and why are you not updating this and that and da 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 and kind of bounced off of social media and Operation Sports for the most part. And so I don't really know the channels that it goes through now. I will say I submitted another user helped me submit a ton of shoe brand updates to unlock the player from being locked in a brand, switch them to brands and stuff like that. I was able to submit that last week, and that got put in right away. I do have an updated list that has the actual shoe model updates. Like I said, that's a totally different department. I don't know who works on it, so it's kind of hard to determine if and when that's going to get put in, to be honest. And that's basically going off end of season playoffs, if the team made the playoffs, and then like the summer league for the rookies and stuff like that. So it may not be as updated when the season starts. We'll see, but hopefully that update will get dropped before the opening night roster, and so that way it can be added in. But let's just get into this quick update. It's nothing major, honestly. I just wanted to make a video because I haven't made one in a few days. 2K finally dropped an update, so I like to keep everybody updated. So, first changes is basically training camp signings, and that's basically it. So we have Sharif Cooper and Mamadi Diakite, along with Nate Hinton, all added to the Cavaliers for training camp. I have a feeling Diakite will make the roster, and they'll end up dropping RJ Nembhard. I do like the upside of Sharif Cooper, but with Donovan Mitchell there, it's kind of hard to really foresee a legitimate future for him. Nate Hinton was basically added because the trade of Norvell Pell in the G League and with the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, and that's how Nate Hinton got added. And then we go over to where are they? So with the Jazz, because they're teetering right there on the number of players available, Cody Zeller wasn't added yet, but Micah Potter officially signed a 2-way contract yesterday. So he's now added. He was thought to be a part of the Motor City Cruise, which is the Pistons organization for the G League. He got a better offer with the Jazz on the 2-way. They waived Xavier Sneed off his 2-way, as well as Paris Bass, you may have saw last week, was added as a training camp deal. He was immediately cut because they want to use his rights, keep his rights, allocation rights for the Salt Lake City Stars. So appreciate it, SGBA. Checking out the new updated rosters. I can't see, unfortunately. It says I dropped something, but I can't see the second part of it. If you don't mind reposting, I'd like to read it. I try to read everything as I can. Like I said, once this monitor gets here, my neck will feel better. I don't have to view this TV at an awkward angle compared to my setup. My monitor will be right in front of me. Appreciate it. Dropped a sub. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. Anybody that is watching, you enjoy the content, please like the video, mash that like button, and mash the subscribe button if you haven't already. Just trying to get as much great content as I can about 2K out. But I want to get back to the roster update, and I got two more things after that to talk about. The Knicks add Ryan Arcidiacono. I think he actually will stick, just because he's a Tibbs favorite. And they also added Daquan Jeffries last week. Svi Mykhailiuk gets added. This signals he may or may not make the team, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Cam Reddish be traded out of New York before the season starts. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think, it's a 100% guarantee, but what's up, T-Coast Corey? But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see him traded away before the season starts. Chris Chioza back to the Brooklyn Nets. Just training camp deal, nothing major. He'll get waived. And then unless they make a trade and decide they want to keep him, but I don't really see that happening per se. He may play for Long Island. We'll see what happens there. Nothing for the Nuggets. They still are missing on the Nuggets. They're still missing Vlatko Konchar's portrait. If you remember, Taco Fall actually had his portrait by accident to begin the season. That's because Vlatko Konchar's face ID is the same as Taco Fall's portrait ID. So there's a little mix-up there. James Johnson got added last week to the Pacers. They added Gabe York this time. He's back on the training camp deal. He'll get allocated to Fort Wayne. Then we go over to the New Orleans Pelicans. These guys got added last week, Brockington and Sebring. Brockington actually might be out for most of the season. I wouldn't be shocked to see that with the ACL injury he suffered. Interesting note here, Kemba Walker, they added back to the Pistons. He's always been on the Pistons. It was speculated that he'd be waived at some point on a buyout, but he just hasn't agreed to that. And I think the Pistons are holding out using that contract as a trade piece. So that's why he's still there. So he's added back. They dropped Kiefer Sykes off his training camp deal, as his rights will get allocated to the Motor City Cruise anyway. And then, like I said, this is just a small, tiny update. Frank Jackson gets added to the Phoenix Suns. This is one that's intriguing. I don't know. I'm mixed bag because Frank Jackson, I'm a Duke fan, obviously, but Frank Jackson's shooting went down. He averaged more points last year, like 10 points a game, but his three-point shooting went down to 30%. And so that's what kind of hurt his chances moving forward. I wouldn't be shocked to see him somehow make the team if there's a Jay Crowder trade. I think Crowder is traded before the season starts, whether it be Miami or somewhere else. Wouldn't be shocked to see a three-teamer with Duncan Robinson coming back, maybe to Phoenix or going to Utah, and then Utah sending a piece or two to Phoenix, maybe Bogdanovich or something. But they want to make sure that they're playing Cam Johnson as much as possible. So Crowder's not really needed per se on the roster. Another note, the OKC Thunder will have a big decision to make because they've got a bunch of players and they've got to either make some trades or cut some people. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them involved in a trade before the end of camp as well, before the start of the season. So we basically got not quite a month, probably about 28 days, I think, until the season starts. 29 maybe. So interesting to see what teams will do. PJ Dozier signs with Minnesota. As you know, he's rehabbing from his injury last year. He seems completely healthy, so he'll fight for a training camp deal. This team's completely, really deep. So it wouldn't shock me to see maybe a trade of someone. Dozier is going to battle with Ellaby there. I wouldn't be shocked to see somebody moved and then maybe Dozier making the team at some point. So it'll be interesting. Nothing else major involving the roster update, anything like that. When we get to opening night's roster, I'm hopeful that we get the position changes. They may not come until the first ratings update, which is like the first or second week in November. That's a long time to wait. But Ticos, it's an option they took out. I think it's a bug. Because if you look, they left the team text, like the word team, in by accident. So when they were doing their coding, it somehow either they didn't erase it all and they intended to take it out, or it was a bug and it got taken out by accident. I like to believe that it was a bug and they didn't mean to take that out because it was a handy thing. The only thing about it is when you scroll through really fast, like especially when you get to the historic players, a lot of times the player on the screen wouldn't change jerseys for a moment or two, and it kind of messed things up. So it might be something that needs to be redefined for next year, and they add it back in. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens once that new official patch. Because the ones that have come out, like the 400 gigabyte patches, or 4 gigabyte patches, I should say, like not really anything earth-shattering, is just stability stuff. But when we get to the big patch that comes probably, I would assume next week, if we're going by last year, then that's going to have the player likeness updates that Ticos is known for on his channel. So he'll have a lot of great content there. I'll go over them as well. I don't go into the detail that Ticos does. So if you guys are into player updates, accessories, and like the faces and diving in deep and really getting a great look at them, he's your guy. Make sure you're subbing to his channel. I'm more the roster update. I'll go over like, hey, this person changed, but I don't dive as deep. So those player likenesses will probably be in that September patch, maybe early October. They usually do one per month up until April, so we'll see. And then a lot of bug fixes. Hopefully, like the broadcast camera fix, we'll get the option to toggle players back in. Some other stuff will get patched in that people have been asking for as well. But what I wanted to talk about is content, in the meantime, for me. I've noticed a lot of people have been doing great work with the eras rosters, as far as especially like MJ Wizards with the 1983-1984 season. I'll definitely be using his, no doubt. And then I forgot the combination of letters, but it's like XV Clutch or something like that. You'll see it if you are on PlayStation 5 and go to the downloads for the 91-92 season. He's working on that and is really working in depth to get that updated. I haven't really seen detailed 2002-2003 season rosters, and with that, I decided to make my own roster. And so what I wanted to do real quick, it's not finished by any means. I'm only probably about 50-60% finished. So don't kill me whenever I'm going through this content of like, hey, this is wrong, da-da-da-da. Like, it's not finished. I've still got to work on vitals for some players. I've got to work on faces for some players. I've got to do ratings and tendencies for a lot of players just to get them fixed. Luckily, a lot of the players were in good shape. Here's where we fall into the 2K spins for 10 minutes. For whatever reason, update the game or app to use network features. To check the download status of the update file, go to downloads. Are we going to have a new download? Okay. So there is a patch downloading live on the air. Interesting. Well, I guess I'll have something else to review whenever we get to whenever that's finished. So I don't know the size of it. Can I check the size of the patch? 1.006. Yeah, I don't know. It's copying, which means the file wasn't that big. So that can't be a likeness update, I would assume. I would assume it's a smaller one, because if it's already copying, that means it downloaded pretty fast. I have fiber internet. I'm lucky enough to have that, so mine downloads pretty fast to begin with, but it copies slow as dirt, like for whatever reason. Like it's pretty slow. Obviously, other people probably have slower connections. I get that. I'm not trying to discount that, but let me see if it'll even let me get over. Okay, it lets me still get to my roster, so I can at least talk while I'm going through. Okay, so this is the 0203 roster that I'm working on. And like I said, please don't kill me with this is wrong, because I'm not finished. Okay, first thing I wanted to start with that I thought would be unique to this roster is anybody that signed that did not play in the 2001-2002 season, but plays in the 2003-2004 season, or is signed later in the season because the 2K is using the opening night rosters, they're in this free agent pool. So you got like Dana Barros didn't play for a season. He plays the following season. I have not fixed his vitals, so don't kill me. He's not going to be a 77. What's my PlayStation Gamertag? PTsports84. So PTsports84. I haven't put any of this stuff up yet. Only 408 megabytes. That means it's going to be a small patch like all the other ones have been. It just means it's going to be a stability patch. Maybe we'll see the player option added back in, something like that. We'll see. We'll check it out whenever we get into the file. I'll be interested now if, since that's coming out, if the NBA Eras is going to be patched for PlayStation now, since it was already patched for the Xbox. Did that update change? I forgot who it was that mentioned that there was an update that took that out. Was that today that wasn't working and it worked yesterday, or was it previous they took it out? Because now I'll be curious if PlayStation's going to get the same thing. Because I'm 99.9% sure 2K did not intend for that debug menu to come in, because that debug menu is usually, that's what I thought, Juan. That means that PlayStation's about to get the same thing. We're about to get that patched out, I bet. That's usually the debug menus for devs to go in and use, so they can read off of their screen what's running, like what apps are running, and code and stuff like that, so they can configure off of that. That's what they work off of. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that. And honestly, I'm not mad, because I couldn't use custom rosters in it anyway, so it wasn't as fun. Like, it was cool to use it for, like, oh yeah, this is a cool feature to have and play now if you want to play real quick. But not using the custom rosters and all the edits was kind of a, little bit of a letdown. So, but anyway, these are the players. Like Leon Smith is one. He played for the Hawks and then Dallas. Like Corey Benjamin. Like, there's different guys that played, like I said, during the season and stuff like that. So they better patch in and play now feature, since we don't know. Since now we know it works. It doesn't break the game. Yeah, but that's a lot. That's a lot to patch in for them to add extra work. One note: DeMar Johnson was on the Hawks. He had broken his neck, remember, from the car crash that he was in. He ended up coming back in 03-04 for the Knicks, but didn't play for the Hawks in 02-03. But I know why they added him in the game, because he technically was on the roster getting paid, so they technically could add him. But I took him off of my roster, put him injured for the season. But that's just what I did. I also did the same for Sam Clancy. Never played in the NBA, but he was drafted in the 02 draft by the Sixers. Had the leg injury, so he didn't play. Sam Dallenberg broke his leg that year, didn't play, but came back the next year. So I put them on the IR and have them in. But you can see, like, I added players, Rencias, Art Long, John Salmons, Brian Skinner. Those guys got added into the roster to complete the roster. Like I said, this is not done by any means. Anthony Mason. And by the way, these caps some are mine, and some came from other rosters and stuff like that. I will, once I release this roster and do an actual video on it, I will be crediting the roster makers that created the caps, who I got the caps from. The ratings and stuff will be different, but the caps will be the same, because I don't steal people's work. I always credit and stuff like that. So just want to make that clear. I'm not doing it right now because I'm not releasing this officially out there. I'm just showing it. Marcus Hayslip was drafted. He's here as well. Joe Prisbilla. The other thing is the cap eyebrows suck this year. Bad. They need to fix them to where we can make normal eyebrows on players, because it kills the immersion of what the player should look like. Rick Brunson, obviously Jalen's dad. Lonnie Baxter. Dalibor Bogaric there. We've got DeJuan Wagner. And the thing about it, the caps look like that on the outside. Then you get in the inside, and this is what the caps look like. Because I worked on DeJuan Wagner myself, and I think that's a pretty good, look of DeJuan Wagner, honestly, on what we could do cap-wise. So I was pretty happy with how that came out. But that's not what it looks like right there. So you always have to make sure you go into Chris Mim. You always have to go into the roster. That's not the greatest Chris Mim. I've got to fix that up. Michael Stewart. I've got to add his full beard there. But like I said, I just started this literally like yesterday when I got done with what I was doing work-wise. Had a little bit for I had to get my son from school, so went ahead and just put together a roster. Bruno Sundoff, Ruben Wolkowski, Kedrick Brown. I'd love to make a better Kedrick Brown, but the cap making features to try to get like Kedrick Brown, very limited. I've got to fix his hair because he had like a mini fro, or like a short tapered fro, whatever. Tony Battie. Eric Williams. I can touch that Eric Williams up better. But I changed some positions as well. Like Tony Delk was the point guard essentially for them. Paul Pierce played the 2 that year. So just fixing up stuff like that. The Clippers, Marko Jaric. That's not the greatest Jaric, but I kind of did what I could with what there was. Chris Wilcox. Eric Piatkowski. Pretty proud of this Piatkowski. Because, look at Piatkowski. He looks pretty similar to what he looked like in the NBA. Like, that was easy. This sounds bad, but, like, the white players are easier to make because, obviously, the features on, with the skin tones and stuff is a little bit easier. The players that, like, the African-American players and stuff, they really need to have, like a 5.1, whatever. So you can have in between a 5 and a 6 skin tone. So like anybody that kind of teeters a little bit in between skin tone ratios, you can make a little bit better. Like Sean Rooks is here. Appreciate that, Ticos. Can you imagine how awesome it would be if 2K allowed us to sign cyber faces? Yeah, that'd be great if we had our own tools editor for console. You could do it at one point for PS3 with Vlad, who now works for 2K, came out with the Redditor, or Red MC. I can't remember which one it was for console, but the presets just aren't good. I'd love eventually to get to the WWE concept where you could just have more real life faces. The Grizzlies were missing a ton of players: Mike Baptiste, Chris Owens, Cesare Trubansky, Robert Archibald, Michael Dickerson. Michael Dickerson was cold. When he played with Houston in the beginning of his years with Memphis when he was healthy, man, he was good. Gordon Girichik, Earl Watson, who I'm surprised they don't have in the game because he's a coach, so they have his face in the game, but they don't have his player model in the game, so they're not going to add his face. But once they do get his licensing rights, they can get him in the game. Lorenzen Wright, RIP. And the Grizzlies are an interesting combo because if you remember to start the year, and I'm dating myself now because I remember this. Pau Gasol was a power forward. Lorenzen Wright started at center. And then they had Drew Gooden starting out as small forward, which was crazy for like the first 5 games or so. And then they scrapped that lineup and went big with Gasol at center, how I have it here. So I just left it alone. Hawks, Alan Henderson. He played center that season. We've got Ira Newble. As you can see, Ira Newble, I think he looks pretty good. Emmanuel Davis. Chris Crawford. Not the best Chris Crawford, not the best Matt Maloney. I've got to fix these up. I added them from another roster, so these aren't my work. I just got them on there and wanted to flesh it out. Amal McCaskill. This is an example of a player that hard to make because it's not technically what he looks like, but I got him as close as I could. Interesting enough, everybody remembers Darvin Ham from being a dunker and stuff like that. He played 2 guard for the Hawks that season. Get to Miami, Sean Lampley, Sean Marks, the GM of the Brooklyn Nets now, Anthony Carter. Appreciate that, SGBA. No problem. Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely check it out. I'll keep going through this roster and stuff like that, and then I'm going to check out if the patch did anything. And that'll pretty much be it for today. Ken Johnson out of Ohio State, Malik Allen, Rasul Butler. This is when he did not have his beard, so that's why I didn't put a beard on him. The Hornets, Jamal McGlure, Robert Tractor Trailer, RIP. Courtney Alexander. I fixed Alexander because his previous model wasn't very good. SGBA. All right, let me go real quick. I'll go to the Pistons since you're still here. Kind of going out of order. but that's okay. Mehmet Okur tried to do the best I could with this one for his rookie year, because you remember he, pretty decent job, I thought, on that one. Tayshaun Prince, not my favorite Tayshaun Prince, but it'll do. The cap is terrible for Tayshaun Prince. The ability to create it, I should say. Chucky Atkins. We get Jelshko Rabracha. And then Don Reed. I got to fix up that Don Reed and make him heavier and all that stuff. A little bit older model. I haven't done anything with the ratings or tendencies. My main objective yesterday was just to add the players in, correctly get everybody there. But let's go back to the Hornets. Like I said, Courtney Alexander, Kirk Haston. This is not a good Kirk Haston. I added him into the roster because if you look at Basketball Reference, it says that Kirk Haston was cut on October 29th, which is before the season started. Well, then, if you look at the game logs, he played in a bunch of games to begin the year. So he wasn't technically cut. They never got it to where they put a tag that says he was re-signed. So he was on the roster to begin the year. I previously had missed that in my initial sweep of the roster. Jerome Moiso, generic, thing. It doesn't look great. It's not my favorite render. We go over to one I'll be curious to see if they fix is Carlos Arroyo. If they get him with a bald head and fix his cap up, that'll be good if they can ever get his face in. The only one here is Matt Harpring out of Georgia Tech. Of course, they added Karolinko last week back in, so that was good. Chris Webber I added here to the Kings. Keon Clark, Mateen Cleaves, Jim Jackson I went ahead and added. The reason I added Jim Jackson to the roster, anybody that's played the MyNBA era, the 2K messed up. Instead of making it 15 active players with a minimum of 14, for the 2002-2003 season, NBA teams had to have a minimum of 13 players active on their roster. Or 12 active, minimum 13 on the roster. 14 minimum roster spots had to be filled starting with the 2005-2006 season. But I think they coded it that way because as you go through the era, they don't have to change it. But it would have been cool to have in the off season as one of the changes for 05-06 to be, hey, now you got to increase your team limit. Because that way you don't have to add fake players to the team or add players that maybe you've added later in the season to fill out the roster. But I thought Jim Jackson played enough of the season with them from early November on to be able to include him in the roster here. So not necessarily opening night per se, but enough that he played on the roster and made enough impact to be there. Frank Williams out of Illinois for the Knicks. LeVar Postel there as well. Then we go up. Othello Harrington. Can't forget about him. I got Chris Webber. I saved his DNA before 2K updated the roster. It's on 2K shares. So if you're on PS5, just type in Chris Webber and you'll find his DNA under the 2K share. So if you create a player and do it that way, you can. Or if you want to overwrite one of the G League players and import Chris Webber and then save it that way, you could do it. Either way, he's available. He's up on there, so you can get him. Samala Samake here. He was cut pretty early, but keeping him on there. Slava Medvedenko got to darken his hair a little bit, but I thought that was a decent cap for him. Orlando Magic. Ryan Humphrey. What's interesting is Humphrey got traded along with Mike Miller for Drew Gooden and Gordon Garicic, like a couple weeks later. Gerald Sasser. This one's tough. Sasser is a tough one to make because Sasser the year before had the braids and then he had like a different look, like a little bit more like stubbly look. And then he got rid of that and then went to like his regular hair like I have and then clean shaven. So it's tough to get him. Olumide Oyedeji. I'm not sure how you say it. I always brutal names, so I'm sorry anybody that's watching. Um, Not the greatest with the names, but that's him. We go over. There's nobody added to the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Strickland was on the team for a brief minute as far as a 10-day contract, but that wasn't until later in the year after they cut Adam Harrington. So I didn't add in Strickland. He's in the free agent pool. Tamar Slay. Brandon Armstrong, got to fix his cap up. He's just a generic throw in there. Chris Childs. Anthony Johnson. Lucius Harris. I would love to see them eventually get Lucius in the game. Denver Nuggets. This is a team that needed a lot of players added. Nene is in. This is rookie Nene. If you remember, he had the little like goatee and all that stuff. I figured Debug was gone. Yeah, it does not shock me. Skills Gaming, I don't have the roster out yet. It's a work in progress, so I haven't released it yet. I'm just showing it. Hopefully have it released by the weekend with all the updated vitals and all that stuff done. Donnell Harvey out of Florida. Nicholas Skeetishvili. This isn't the greatest Skeetishvili, but I did the best I could. Junior Harrington, who played point guard for them. Vincent Yarbrough out of Tennessee. Chris Whitney. Rodney White. See, you can see the caps look different when you go in. Kenny Satterfield was already added. Predrag Savovic added here. Go over to the Pacers. Primoz Brzic. Jamison Brewer was tough. Very, very tough. I don't know that I'll ever get him right. Ron Mercer. Player edit view is still gone. Yeah, no surprise. That was a new bug. I didn't think they'd get it in that fast. Because that's an engineer that has to go in and rewrite that code and get it back in. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that like 2 months from now be added back in, if it's going to be added. I don't think there was much of any changes. Is this patch? Most likely a stability patch. Yeah, that's what I figured. Just stability patch. When you go from each year, the new Hornets arena. Well, the reason it doesn't change those arenas is because you're making the MyNBA your own now. So it changes how things are done per se. They could do it for some. They may not have the licensing for others. That's another reason that they may not have that. But Jamal Tinsley, I've got to work on his cap. This is just a throw in right now. Reggie Miller, I can touch him up a little more because, I mean, it's all right, but I can touch him up. Brad Miller, I thought that was a decent looking Brad Miller. Ron Artest. See, like Artest looks totally different when you get in the menu. I thought that was a decent attempt at Artest. I already went over to the Pistons, but I'll go over them again. Prince, Atkins, Okur, Rebracha, and Reed added. Get over to the Toronto Raptors. Nate Huffman, Damone Brown. The Damone Brown's not mine. It was added in from another roster. Chris Jeffries, not mine, added in from another roster. And they changed the skin tone finally of Michael Bradley last week, so that's correct. Bashawn Leonard. The Rockets. Kenny Thomas, who was eventually traded to the Sixers. That's not a good Kenny Thomas. I got to fix that one. I saw that Skills Gaming. The only problem is when you start messing with the caps from his videos, you can get them close, but the eyebrows don't match up and some of the eye placements don't match up. So you got to tinker around with some of that stuff. But yeah, I definitely saw that. Good resource to highlight as well. Kelvin Cato, got to fix Bastian Nakbar. Eddie Griffin, I've got to fix. He was one of my favorite players coming out of the 01 draft. Jason Collier, got to fix him. Tito Maddox, got to fix him. And then Terrence Morris out of Maryland. One change for the Spurs, MYNBA ERA. That was not mine. That was added in from another roster. Alton Ford out of Houston. Got Jake Voskuhl. Dan Lange. That was added from another roster. I got to fix his hair. Like I was saying earlier with the head updates, like with Scott Williams and stuff like that, like they were able to get it right in here, but when you go to the classic rosters, they're not. They basically flip-flopped his head. They have the hair version on the wrong model. So they'll have to fix that. Jake Sakalidis. They still need to update Joe Johnson for the 0405 team. Hopefully they do that. Going over to the Sonics. As you remember, Gary Payton got traded for Ray Allen. Eventually, Desmond Mason was included in that. Vlad Romanovich. This is okay. I want to touch this one up more to get him. Yeah, RIP to Alton Ford. Yeah, that was a shame to see that. Ansu Cisse. Reggie Evans, I've got to touch up. That's just a generic throw-in. Vitaly Potapenko, got to touch him up. That's just a generic throw-in. Jerome James. Calvin Booth. I thought that was a decent Calvin Booth. Predrag Drobinjak. Not mine. That's added from another roster. Lauren Woods on Minnesota. Igor Rakocevic. I've got to touch that up. He's not that balding. And let's see. Rasho Nesterovic. Rod Strickland they added last week. Troy Hudson. I've got to touch that up. I have a better version that I created last year, but I haven't had a chance to create it yet for them. Moving over to the Portland Trailblazers, Rasheed Wallace, of course. That wasn't mine. I just got that off 2K Share. Dale Davis, same thing, off 2K Share. Jeff McInnes. How the hell they have Quintel Woods as a power forward, I don't know. He was a 3 and a 2 for them, but it is what it is. Ruben Patterson, I've got to get a better Ruben Patterson. The Golden State Warriors, Danny Fordson. Was probably going to fix the hair because Danny Fordson didn't have that haircut until the next year with Dallas. Troy Murphy. I thought that was a decent looking Troy Murphy. Oral Boykins wasn't signed until November, but he was there for the rest of the season, so I kept him on and left out AJ Guyton, who only played a few games for the Warriors. He's in the free agent pool. Chris Mills, Yuri Welsh, Guy Rucker, and Oscar Torres, along with Dean Oliver, round out the roster. Going over to Washington, Kwame Brown needs work. It's hard to get a good Kwame Brown face from the Cap creator. Jahidi White, I could probably touch that one up some more as well. Juan Dixon, I'm going to touch that one up because he's a little bit lighter, a little bit different features, but I just want to get him on the roster. So that is the roster, guys, for the 0203 season. So that's pretty much everybody there. Like I said, here's the free agents. Like I added Matt Barnes because he was drafted in 02 but didn't play till 0304. These guys like Rodney Buford, Mark Pope, like those guys were out of the league because they played overseas that year, but they came back the next season. So that's why you see him in the free agent pool. This Brandon Williams played for, funny enough, he's one of the assistant GM now for the Kings, and he played for the Hawks briefly on a 10-day. John Wallace, obviously drafted by the Knicks, played with Miami in 0304. Maceo Baston and Jeff Trepanier were already in. Antoine Rigaudot needs a better face. Sending Hamilton. Tierra Brown needs lightened skin tone. Mitchell Butler. Derek Dial. Paul Grant. Like I said, DeMar Johnson, I mentioned him earlier. So that's the roster. Like I said, my hope is to have it out by the weekend, touching everybody up. It won't be like 100% finished by the weekend because I still have to tweak tendencies and stuff like that, things like that. No Kostas Antetokounmpo on the Bulls because he didn't play in the NBA last year, so they can't use his likeness rights until he's officially on a roster opening night, which guarantees him, on that roster officially. That's why you don't see Tyrese Martin on the Hawks or, guys like that. Like, they can't officially put them in until they're 100% official. Two-way contract is an exception. They can add them in. But I don't know. My sneaking suspicion is Kostas makes it as a two-way, and then they waive Justin Lewis from his two-way because of the ACL injury. But that's just my assumption. Maybe they make a roster spot for if they trade Kobe White or something. But with Lonzo probably not playing to start the season, maybe not at all at full strength this season, Kobe White might be needed, even though I don't really like his game. But it is what it is. But, yeah, like I said, this 02-03 roster is mine. Hope to have it out this weekend, just an initial version for everybody. Go from there. So, let's see. What was the other thing? Oh, just wanted to show the roster I use for 91. It's not going to let me because I got to update it and stuff. Okay. Well, I will, I guess, cut this video short because I don't have any content anyway. I don't think there's anything with the patch just based on what has already been said in the chat. So nothing major added or anything like that. Hopefully nothing taken away or nothing broken other than the debug menu not being in, which we knew that was going to come. Once it was in there as a debug and all that stuff, it wasn't going to last. It just wasn't. It wasn't intended to be there in the first place. Thank you, Skills Gaming. If I could ask the favor, if you like the content, if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I do videos like this every time there's a roster update or there's going to be a patch. I do one of these videos. I still am planning to do my NBA season preview based on the 2K rosters. Hopefully going to start that this week. I just haven't had the chance to write out the script I wanted to write. And just have something to follow just so I'm have it as a fallback. I like to go off the top of my head, but still like to have a fallback. The debug menu was, it may still be available for me because I haven't updated to the patch, but it's play now. And you could hit square here, and it allows you to play the era games in quick play, play now. But that's apparently been taken out in the new patch, so not available any longer. So, yeah, but like I said, if you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Tell a few friends about it if you like it. You can find me on Twitter at Pete Toll, so PETETOAL. PETETOAL on Twitter. My DMs are always open if you find feedback. I can't do much about the current gen feedback, so I'll be honest, sending that to me is not really going to, I can't tell you if it's ever going to be in or not. But anything that you find on next gen, you're more than welcome to send it to me. I send over feedback a lot, so at this point 2K might be tired of me sending stuff, who knows. But if we get another roster update for any of the classic teams, any of the coaches, any of the historic draft classes, or the MyNBA stuff, I'll be back with another video of that this week. Like I said, I don't think there will be. I think it'll be next week maybe before that stuff drops. In the meantime, hopefully have some kind of content out either tomorrow or Friday. And then I'll do a specific video on that 0203 roster once it's better completed, and post it and highlight it for what it is and tag the appropriate people I got caps from and stuff like that. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope everybody has a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.